experiment was looking at what would happen to a tomato after 2.5 weeks left in the open.
Our materials were a tomato, photo booth, Google Docs, a digital weight scale, 3 laptops, and a digital temperature probe. The tomato was our specimen. We needed a photo booth to take daily pictures of our specimen. We needed Google Docs to record our information. We needed the weight scale to measure the weight. We needed the laptops to access the information. And we needed the temperature probe to measure the temperature of the tomato.
Our initial hypothesis was that the weight would drop from 140.4 grams to 100 grams. Our group thought the color would turn brown and that the fungi would grow on the tomato. We also thought the temperature would change a lot. We thought the tomato temperature would go up because the tomato was just out of the fridge. We expected the smell to be rotten.
Time is a manipulated variable in this experiment because every day our specimen got more gross than the first day.
The control variables in this experiment were the temperature, the location, and the sunlight.
The responding variables in the experiment were what we measured. These included the temperature, the weight, and the observations.
We had certain jobs: the handler, the analyzer, and the digital documenter.
The handler started with getting the tomato off the shelf. Then he or she would go to the experiment table to record the information, the weight and the temperature. Next, the analyzer would record that info, the weight and the temperature, into our Google Doc.
Next, we would record qualitative observations, and the digital documenter took a picture of our specimen and inserted it into our Google Doc. Finally, we put the tomato back in its area where we would not have to smell it anymore.
Over the 2.5 weeks of our experiment, our tomato changed from a bright red to dark red and black. At the start of the experiment, our specimen smelled like a juicy fresh tomato that was ready to eat, but it quickly changed to smelling like rotten cheese, something that would make you sick if you ate it. The texture went from smooth to hard to mushy and wrinkly with yellow juice coming out.
When we first started this project, the fruit was fairly cold, probably because the fruit was refrigerated in the store. Afterwards, the fruit was much warmer, probably because the fruit was left out in the open and no longer refrigerated anymore. I think the weight was getting lighter because of 2 reasons. One, probably because when the water and chemical was evaporated, this caused the fruit to lose more weight. 2, if you did have maggots, the maggots were probably eating some of the fruit and making the fruit lose weight. To analyze our data, we made graphs so we could read the information more easily. The gaps in the information represent the weekends. We put all of our quantitative information on one chart.
Here's a graph of our tomatoes' changes in temperature, as you can see. When we first started this project, the fruit was fairly cold, probably because the fruit was refrigerated in the store it was bought from. Afterwards, the fruit was much warmer, probably because the fruit was left out in the open and no longer refrigerated.
Here is our specimen's weight chart. The yellow line represents the difference in weight from previous, while the red line represents the current weight. The blue line represents the starting weight of the fruit. We noticed that the difference in the weight was kind of wonky because the yellow line went from 0.0 to 15.1.
Throughout this experiment, we have learned that when fruit is left out in the open, it gets really stinky, and it does not take long for fruit to rot. Our observations were interesting because they were very detailed and specific. Our hypothesis for weight was incorrect because we predicted our specimen would drop to 100 grams, but it dropped down more than we expected, 81.8 grams. We were also off with temperature predictions because we thought it would change a lot more than it did.
We were also a little off on our prediction for the color because it did not turn brown. It just turned a little black. We were right about the fungi on the tomato, but we got a lot more than we thought. But we also did not expect that the tomato would get super smelly, like rotten cheese. You would need a gas mask not to smell a tomato because it smelled so bad. Questions we have for further explanation are:
What will happen to grapes and dragon fruit if they are put through the same procedure? We also wonder if our tomato will grow a nice little plant. We wonder if we left the tomato in the fridge for 2 years, what would happen?